Hey everyone, I thought I'd kind of give my thoughts on Scooby Mystery Incorporated. I talked about that. I did a discussion about it. Basically a week or basically a day before the final week of the series. So even though I didn't watch most of it at times, from what I have read on Wikipedia, and I'm sure a lot of people out there can back me up on this, I have to give I have to give Warner Brothers and Hanna-Barbera in the Hanna-Barbera division. I have to give them a lot of credit. I mean, it's not every day, if you will. It's not every day that you have a series begin on a certain date and then end on that exact same date. It's not every day that happens. Mystery Incorporated started on April 5th, 2010, and its finale was on April 5th, 2013. Yeah, strange, huh? So I have to give them credit for that. And even though some people have had their differences about it, in fact, I talked about it in the discussion and how it wasn't some people's cup of tea, if you will. And you can look that up in my two-part discussion there. I have to give him credit for going in a different direction and, shaking things up a little bit and, making things darker in tone at times and doing things that were unexpected. But I'm pretty sure the finale, though, is what really got people scratching their heads. Because when I read the summary of it on Wikipedia, what got me was basically how it ended. What this was really all about. I mean, basically we find out that the Mystery Inc. gang is literally stuck, it sounds like, in an alternate timeline. A timeline that was never meant to be. Yeah. And that the only way they could restore things back to the way they were supposed to be, especially for the present day, is to destroy I guess it's called the entity or whatever it is, the villain, the main antagonist of this entire series, destroy it, and thus restore the timeline to what it's supposed to be, or basically make it basically create a new timeline and make it as it was. And what's funny is that everybody else, except for Mystery Inc. and Mr. E, if you will, everybody else, obviously, sounds like, from what I read, has no idea what happened. Has no idea of what happened. Basically, the entire thing was that their good side, all these other previous Mystery Incorporated teams, their good sides were trapped in a dimension, and by destroying the entity, only then could they be restored and saved, and the curse, as it's called, would be lifted, and things would change to what they were meant to be. Oh yeah, and even Nova knows about this too, because now she speaks. Obviously, she talks. Go figure. But when you take a look at all this, and you look at what really this has all been leading towards, you think to yourself, wow, they took a chance with the series. It was good. It was good they took that chance. It was good they went in a darker direction. It's good they shook up the status quo of the franchise at times, but again, the ending would have you scratching your head like, wait a minute, this is what it all led up to? That this was nothing more than a time shift, time paradox kind of story arc? That what was supposed that the timeline they're in wasn't meant to be, that they're supposed to be in a different timeline, that because of what happened to all these previous mystery groups, the timeline was, excuse my language, Lord, excuse my language, God, but the timeline was fucked up. So now they gotta defeat this entity, this antagonist, this main antagonist, to restore things. It's like, it's like you didn't see that coming, and I'll give them credit because I don't think anybody had an idea that this was going to be, let's face it, a timeline paradox kind of story. I don't think anybody had an idea it was going to be that kind of a story arc. And I'll give them credit because we didn't know what it was leaning towards. We didn't know what all this was about. We didn't know what this whole plasmastatic disc thing was all about. We had no idea. We had no idea what was going on. And I got to give them credit for that because, again, none of us saw it coming. Even though I didn't see the finale, which I was going to, none of us saw it coming. And that, to me, I got to applaud them for. It's something that really surprised us because you would think, okay, all the mystery stuff that they've done and everything, it's obviously going to be an unmasking of someone surprising or major and blah, blah, blah. And what happens? It turns out to be something you wouldn't expect. I mean, out of all the Scooby-Doo shows, never once did you ever have a Scooby-Doo mystery, whether it was story arced, whether it was one part, whether it was in the movie, Scooby-Doo movies. Heck, I don't even think any of the direct-to-video animated films were like this. I don't think any of them were like this, where you had basically the main reason behind this arc being timeline paradox. I mean, I don't think anybody saw that coming. And again, I applaud them. I applaud them for that because it is something I don't think any of us, anybody that followed the series and watched the series saw coming. But basically, overall, again, just like I said in my discussion, I'll say it here. For the past 3 years, I got to give them credit. I got to tip my hat off to them for taking a chance in which they did. I mean, heck, you had death. You had characters die in this series. I'm not lying. You had characters die, but then, as some people will call it, thanks to the Deus Ex Machina, if you will, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, you have them restored when the new timeline, or the what should have been timeline, is brought to life, is brought forward, and becomes a reality. When that new timeline becomes a reality, the timeline that was supposed to be, if you will, is restored. The curse is lifted. All of a sudden, you have all the characters that supposedly died back to life. I mean, basically, everything is what it was supposed to be, like I said, before all this crap came down. So essentially, that's what Mystery Incorporated was. It was nothing more than a show that not only took chances, give them credit for that, and took the franchise in a different direction, but was also a show that surprised you with its finale, because I don't think anybody saw it coming. I mean, literally, ask yourself this. As soon as you saw, ask yourself this. As soon as you saw the finale, well, not the finale, the season 1 finale from Mystery Incorporated, and the way it ended on a cliffhanger, ask yourself this. Did you ever expect the finale to be, the final episode of the series, to be about, to basically wrap up the final episodes, this is not just episode, but the final episodes, to basically be about a timeline, to basically tell you right then and there that this entire story arc was nothing more than a timeline, was about a timeline paradox. That basically the timeline that Mystery Incorporated was in was not the right timeline. That it was altered because of the actions of previous mystery-solving groups. Did you ever think that was going to be the reason behind this entire story arc? That this was what the entire story arc was going to be about, was leading up to? No, you didn't. So you got to give him credit. You got to give him credit there. You got to give him credit for taking chances, taking the show in a different direction. You got to give him credit for doing things you wouldn't expect them to do in a Scooby-Doo show, killing off characters only to bring them back when the new timeline is brought to life, or the timeline that should have been is restored. And you know what's funny is when you take a look at these timelines being restored to what they should have been in the first place, you take a look at all the scenarios that all the characters associated with Mystery Incorporated and Mystery Incorporated itself, what happens because of that. I mean, basically, 4-2 St. Louis, that's not good. But what's funny about this is you should take a look at what happens at the aftermath, the after effects of this timeline. I mean, you have a lot of people, a lot of things you wouldn't see. You have a lot of the characters together, married. You have, you have two main characters finally being given approval by one other character's parents for, to get married with there are certain shippers and supporters out there that don't like it. You gotta, just things like that, that you would see obviously in similar storylines and story arcs when it comes to timeline alterations or whatever, or distortions. It's really a surprise when you think about it. It's really, really a huge surprise. Nice at times. But again, you got to give them credit, like I said, for doing things no one thought they would do. And to me, like I said, my hat's off to them for taking these chances. Again, I never saw any of this coming. I really, really didn't. So, again, my hat's off to them, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But that's just my overview of this entire Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, and obviously what the whole story arc was about. So, again, if anybody out there knows a little bit more about it, has paid attention to every episode, let me know what you guys think about it. Comment below, respond if you like, and I'll talk to you later. I am now one video away, obviously, from 5,000. If not, then this is.